Hi there. So today's March the 4th, and you're back with Jacklet of all trades, master of none. Today we're going to do some transplanting. We had planted a number of things on February the 10th and 11th. So now we're going to see how great it looks. The true leaf is out, so we're going to be transplanting. What I'm setting first, I'm putting tomatoes in. Tomatoes and a couple other things, peppers, that need time. Because today's March 4th, it's about 6 weeks, 8 to 8 weeks to garden time. So we need that time for those plants to mature enough and be strong enough to take the winds of the garden. So we're going to start off with Aroma. Now these are my own plants or seeds from last year. That I save, and as time goes on I'll show you how to save them, which is very simple. I think we looked there before at some seeds that I had from last year. So the Aroma Tomato, I'm sure you've heard of them. They're a very meaty tomato. So because I do salsa, I like to have meaty tomatoes, not too watery. Like some can be just very for slicing. And that's okay, I grow those as well. But because I make a lot of salsa, a lot of other type of, like ketchup and, so many other things, relish, that I like to have a meaty tomato in the processing. So I just throw it on top like we did with the other ones. This one has its own little tray here, instead of like I had everything together over here. So that was the Aroma, and we're going to do the tomato as well, and the the Manitoba tomato. But we're going to put half Manitoba and half oxheart. Now oxheart, if you've ever seen it or heard of it, is a big tomato, big meaty tomato, very similar to the Aroma, but huge, the size of a heart. My fist is the size that the average tomato grows to. So they give you a nice big serving of tomato. That was the Manitoba I just planted, and here's the oxheart. The seeds all look the same, so of course, how are you going to tell? You have to, of course, mark them. And that's why you see I have them all in envelopes with their name on it. Because I want to be able to know when I'm transplanting the tomatoes, so that I have the oxheart at one spot and the Aroma away from the oxheart, so that they don't get cross-pollinated. And that's something to remember as well. If you have different varieties of the same plant, try to separate them. It can be one half the row here, half the row there, but at least make the effort to try to divide them up. Okay. Now, if you noticed the tomatoes, I just spread them on top. The soil I made very wet and warm, with warm water, and then I just put the tomatoes on top. Normally I put them in rows like I have here, but because I want the tomatoes to just start quickly, they're on the surface, and I'll just water them and then put them in a dark place like I did for the other seeds. And now we're also going to be doing peppers and a few other seeds that I have here. So sweet peppers, 2020. My grandson asked me, why do you click that? Do you try to wake the seeds up? I had to laugh. No, I'm not trying to wake the seeds up. I'm just trying to put the seeds down to the bottom, so I don't. He makes me laugh, that kid. Anyhow, so I don't tear when I tear the lid off. I'm tearing them out. So that's sweet peppers. I don't need that many. I mean, I'd like to put at least 20 plants out, but I've already put at least 20. And here's another pepper. It's called a hybrid Aruba stuffing. I don't know what that's going to look like. I think because it's going to be a big wide pepper. I think that's why I bought this. And these seeds were from TNT. Boy, not very many. I have to save these seeds as well. Okay, now what else am I going to do? I've got, I think, some cauliflower and summer savory. I think I'm going to also start here. Nice and wet on the bottom. So I'm going to start the cauliflower, wake up those seeds. You know what kids think, eh? Oh, I don't need all those seeds. Cauliflower, I do like, but it you just get the one head out of the one plant. So, you know, if I had warmer, longer season, I would be able to cut the heads and then they would produce more heads. But because I don't have that long season, usually I just kind of just get one head out of it. Now, summer savory, a good part of the time I just throw into the garden the seeds. But this year I want to make sure I have summer savory. Most of it didn't come up last year because of just the type of year it was. So these are very tiny seeds, and it's I'm going to throw them very thick. And I don't think I'm going to plant all these either. There's quite a few here. But I love summer savory. It's like a sweet marjoram, and grows very well in Manitoba if it has the season for it. And last summer we just didn't seem to have enough sun. You think it's hot, it should be lots of sun, but somehow or other we didn't just get enough of what the plants needed. So now I'm going to shuffle this off to Buffalo and put it in the dark place, and then we're going to start transplanting. I'll be right back. I'm going to show you the plants that we're going to transplant today. Gee, it's really hard to see. But these are the oxheart, and the true leaf is out now. There's the true leaf. As well as the parsley has the true leaf out here. I got myself a tray and put 6 packs in there. I used to have a greenhouse, so I have all these supplies. But when you buy plants every year, you'll get a little tray like this, save them. And you'll get the big tray too if you ask for it. No one likes to give the big tray out, but they will if you take 6 of these little containers. It's easier to carry, right? So we're going to start transplanting. I made, with my finger, I just made holes. Now normally you get a tray like this, you get 5, 6 plants. We're just shoving them in here like crazy to fill up the trays, and because actually we're going to be running out of room by the time we have to go to the garden, so I really stuff things in, and I make it work. If I have to transplant again, some of them, because they get too big, because some are stronger than others, and they grow more. So I made a mixture of just peat moss and topsoil. I just bought 2 bags. I usually have my own, but for the sake of talking here, you buy a bag of topsoil and you buy a bag of peat moss, you mix them together, put them in your little trays, water the heck out of it with nice warm water, so it's sopping wet. You want it sopping wet for those little seedlings. And we're going to start. So we're going to start with the parsley. Now I just use a little spoon and I pull a whole bunch out. See all that bunch? And then I just start taking them separately, 1 or 2 at a time, and throw them into the little hole. Just with my finger. I just shove it in where I made the hole with my finger. Now I'm shoving the little plant in the same hole. Make sure the roots go in as well, because that's what's important. And then you just cover up the little hole as you go. And you just keep planting. Now don't forget, this is parsley, so I don't really think I need a heck of a lot of parsley. 1 tray probably is more than enough. That'll be about a dozen plants, and that's more than enough for drying and using, you know, in my making of soups or whatever it is I'm making, because we like to have it dry. Now, if you pull it out and you pull the little stem away from the root, it's useless. Just throw it away. It's fodder for the next plant. So you make sure you have a root on it when you're throwing it in to the soil with your finger, just shoving it in one little hole. And you just keep at it. So I'll probably will have little clumps. I like to put clumps too, and that kind of takes space as well. So I'll go back over the singles and and kind of shove a couple more in with them. Because parsley, like I said, I don't need a heck of a lot of it. One tray will be more than enough. I have a few extra parsley plants here that I'll just probably stuff somewhere wherever it'll fit. So the next one is the sweetgrass. I think, if you recall, it does look like grass, and I'll just pick it up here and I'll just show you. Well, there's a plant with it, but that's just little grass. And I'm going to also do the same thing with this as I did with the parsley. Now this is a cabbage or broccoli, not sure which, kind of self-seeded itself. So I'm just going to throw a couple of these little grasses into a hole. And they'll grow just like grass grows, and get bigger as the spring wears on. And then I'll probably put them in their own pot. Put a whole bunch of this grass together in its own pot. And then when the garden time comes, I'll just shove it all into the garden. And then come fall, I'll be able to process it just like, it kind of looks like pepper stems. You know, you buy green peppers in the garden. I mean, in the store. That's what it looks like when it's full grown and ready to use. And I also would dehydrate whatever I don't use at the moment for my cooking. I'll just throw it into the dehydrator, and I have that lemongrass. Did I say sweetgrass? I hope I didn't. I meant lemongrass. Couple more left here. Now, I probably would have left this just a little bit longer, but while I'm transplanting, it doesn't hurt to throw it into a container that's bigger and has more room. When you're watering your plants, you use a fertilizer. I get a organic fertilizer. I buy it from T&T Seeds, but you can buy your fertilizer wherever you choose to buy it, or even make a tea with I'm getting mixed up here. With whatever type of manure you have, pour hot water over the manure, let it sit, and then the liquid is a fertilizer, and then you can throw your liquid fertilizer on top of your plants. And for the most part, as long as it's not too strong, it does very well. It won't burn them. You just make sure it's not too strong. Dilute it. If it looks strong to you, it's too strong. It has to look like a very weak tea. So next plant we're going to do is the artichoke, and this I'm really looking forward to see what's going to happen in the garden with this artichoke, because I've never grown artichoke, and I'm really interested to see what it's going to turn out to be. See, they're really big, thick plants, healthy as all get out. So, and they have the true root, the true stem. So they'll do well in the transplant. Don't forget, now they've had a shock. So you're going to keep them in kind of like a semi-darkness in the kitchen, without going direct into the direct light is probably all I'm going to do for them today. And then come evening, put them back in the window for the light in the morning, because they are shocked now. You've torn the root apart. Just imagine how you'd feel. So that they're going to kind of look wilted and sad. Some root stems here, but that's okay. They'll recover as well. That's why you plant so many, in case you do lose one or two. It's not too much of a shock to your growing repertoire. I hadn't expected so many of them. There's a couple more here, so I will plant them as well. I make that hole with my finger and just shove it in. Usually it has to be a bigger hole if it's a bigger plant. You see, I'm just using a spoon to pop them out. That kind of breaks up the stem, the system of roots. Boy, look at those roots. They're well established plant already. So some of them won't have too much of a shock if I can take most of the root as I transplant them. And you can transplant different plants with different plants within these containers. It doesn't hurt them. It doesn't hurt them at all. Now what's next? We'll do some broccoli. These are the broccoli here. We'll start. The true leaf is just starting to come out on broccoli, so they'll be just fine in the transplant. And even if the true leaf isn't out, really, if I see here and there a plant doesn't have a true leaf, that's okay. It's being transplanted at the same time, and it will catch. You just don't want to plant all your plants without that true leaf, because then you're going to lose a lot of them, and it's very heartbreaking to spend all this time transplanting or planting and then waiting and then watering and then putting the light on and then losing your plants. So you want to be as careful as you can when you're transplanting things. You don't want to hurt the roots. You're shoving them into the soil nice and tight. There's room there for more. All right, now we're going to switch this tray this way. And you do make a mess when you're working with this kind of thing, so make sure you have an area where it can be cleaned. And if you happen to find a little volunteer and shove it in there and you don't know what it is, that's okay too, because you'll see what it is as it gets bigger. Now we're just about at the end of the broccoli, which is okay. I love broccoli, and broccoli is excellent for your health. So whatever I get. But broccoli likes cool weather, so you're going to see it's very slow to start in the garden. You're going to be waiting for those flowers to be able to take the broccoli, and it's not forming a head. That's just because they like cold weather. So if it's very hot in the summer, just keep paying attention to them. If they need water, I tend not to water my plants because I have such a big garden. But if you have a little garden or a couple pots, baby them. Give them what you think they need, which is usually just sunshine and water. That's all plants really need to survive. And of course, they cannot have frost. That's why in Manitoba, our garden isn't really planted. Well, I don't plant my these plants in the garden until the first full moon in June, and that's another farm tip that I got when I was growing up. My parents always said, you wait for that full moon in June because there could be frost. And now that our temperature is fluctuates so much in our world, I pay attention to that. I don't transplant until that first full moon comes out, and then I know it's pretty safe. And if I have to cover some tomatoes, then I will go and cover them. So now the next one is some cabbage here. I'm not going to transplant all of this, but I will transplant some, just so that you can see what's going on. I'm running out of tray space here, and I will have to get more trays set up. And you don't need to see all this transplanting. It is very boring, except when you're doing it yourself. It's I find it enjoyable, because you're starting new life. You're starting your plants that you're going to survive on through the winter. The food that's going to keep your family safe when you go to the grocery store and a head of broccoli costs $3 or $4 or $5, heaven forbid. But that's all part of being self-sufficient. I've always stressed to all my kids, just be as self-sufficient as you can, because we don't know when the next time comes when there's a loss somewhere that the crop didn't come in, and all of a sudden the apples cost $5 a pound. That's, of course, hopefully that never happens, but I think we're getting close to there now. So, and I also have my own fruit, not like I would if I was in Florida, but I do have some apples, and I have some cherries and some raspberries. I mean, certainly, back in the day, I used to have a U-pick, so I used to have all kinds of raspberries and herbs. That's what I did. I had a U-pick for herbs and raspberries, or as well as even some extra vegetables. I don't do that now, of course. I'm supposed to be retired. But they say, I remember reading not too long ago, happy retirement is someone who is always busy. And I can guarantee you, I'm always busy. But that's the way my life has always been. So, and that's the way I like it. All right, we're about done. I'm going to, even though they were soaking wet when I first planted it, I'm going to add more water to this. And then I'm just going to leave it here in the kitchen away from the direct sunlight and give it a day, 24 hours to recuperate and kind of reestablish its root system. Okay, we'll talk to you later.